They told you to be kind, to stay open, to trust the process and trust the people around you. And that advice, that well-meaning, dangerously naive advice, turned you into a target without you even realizing it. Here's what Machiavelli understood that most men will never have the courage to accept. The world is not a fair place. It never was. It never will be. The weak get consumed. The naive get used. And the good-hearted get exploited by those who learned the rules of power while everyone else was busy pretending those rules didn't exist. But the moment you accept that truth, not just in your mind, but deep in your bones, something fundamental shifts inside you. You stop flinching. You stop apologizing for your strength. You stop handing people the weapons they'll eventually use against you. Machiavelli didn't write for the masses. He wrote for the few, and if you're still watching, you might just be one of them. Drop Untouchable in the comments. Let's begin. Number 2. Emotion is the enemy. Detachment is your greatest weapon. To strike when they want you off balance, to strike when they want you off balance. Anger, jealousy, desperation, the need for approval. These are not just weaknesses, they are open doors, and the wrong people will walk through them without hesitation. Machiavelli was precise about this. A man who cannot control himself cannot control anything around him, not his relationships, not his reputation, not his position in any room he walks into. Emotional men are predictable men, and predictable men are manageable men. The moment someone can predict your reaction, they own your reaction. They own you. Dark psychology operates on one fundamental principle. Find the emotional trigger, pull it, and watch the target destroy himself. You've seen it happen. You may have even lived it. Someone said the right words at the right moment, and suddenly you were reactive, irrational, saying things you didn't mean, making decisions you couldn't take back. That is not weakness of character. That is the absence of training, and that training begins with a single discipline: detachment, not coldness for its own sake, not indifference that isolates you, but a calculated, deliberate distance between what happens to you and how you choose to respond. The Stoics called it the space between stimulus and response. Machiavelli called it composure under pressure. Dark psychology calls it emotional immunity. Whatever you call it, it is the foundation of becoming untouchable. When you stop reacting and start observing, you shift from being a player on the board to being the one who moves the pieces. Nothing can destabilize a man who has mastered his own interior. Drop Iron Mind in the comments if you're ready to build that discipline. Number 3. Silence is not weakness. It is the most dangerous power you own. There is a reason the most powerful men in history were also the most difficult to read. They didn't overshare. They didn't explain themselves. They didn't feel the need to justify every decision, defend every move, or fill every silence with nervous words. They understood something that most people never grasp: that silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. Silence is strategy. Silence is a weapon that costs you nothing and unsettles everyone around you. Most people are terrified of silence. The moment a conversation goes quiet, they rush to fill it. They over-explain. They reveal too much. They expose their insecurities, their intentions, their next move, all because they couldn't tolerate a few seconds of stillness. And every word they speak unnecessarily is information handed to whoever is listening. Machiavelli understood that information is power, and the man who controls what others know about him controls the dynamic of every interaction he enters. When you speak less, people project more onto you. They begin to fill the silence themselves with assumptions, with curiosity, with a kind of quiet respect that you never had to demand. Mystery creates gravity, and gravity pulls people toward you without you having to chase anything. Dark psychology teaches that the most influential people in any room are rarely the loudest. Is a brick removed from your wall. Every unnecessary word you speak is a brick removed from your wall. Every overshared emotion is a vulnerability catalogued by someone watching. But when you master silence, when you become comfortable in it, weaponize it, and use it with intention, you become impossible to manipulate, because you cannot be provoked into revealing what you've chosen to protect. The man who controls his tongue controls his fate. The man who guards his inner world becomes unreadable, and an unreadable man is an untouchable man. Drop silent power in the comments if this is already hitting different. Number 4, stop seeking approval. The need to be liked is making you weak. There is a poison so deeply embedded in most men that they don't even recognize it as poison. They've been carrying it since childhood, feeding it daily, letting it quietly dictate every decision they make, every word they choose, every boundary they fail to hold. That poison has a name. It's called the need for approval, and it is destroying you more efficiently than any enemy ever could. Think about how many times you softened your words because you were afraid of how someone would react. How many times you agreed when you should have pushed back. How many times you stayed silent not out of strategy, but out of fear. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of being seen as difficult, arrogant, or cold. To please everyone ends up respected by no one. To please everyone ends up respected by no one. Because people don't respect accommodation, they respect conviction. They don't follow the man who agrees with the room, they follow the man who commands it. When you stop needing people to like you, something extraordinary happens. Your decisions become cleaner, your boundaries become harder, your presence becomes heavier. You stop shrinking yourself to fit into spaces that were never built for you, and you start building spaces that reflect exactly who you are. Dark psychology identifies approval seeking as one of the most exploitable traits a person can have. Manipulators specifically target people who need to be liked, because those people can be controlled through validation and punished through withdrawal. The moment someone knows you need their approval, they have leverage over you. But the man who genuinely does not need your validation, your praise, or your acceptance, that man cannot be leveraged. He cannot be guilted. He cannot be managed. He operates from a position of complete psychological autonomy, and that autonomy is the beginning of real, unshakable power. Drop "I need no one's approval" in the comments, and mean it. Number 5. Loyalty is rare. Trust your vision, not people's promises. One of the most painful lessons a man can learn is that the people he trusted most were never as loyal as they appeared. Not because all people are evil, not because the world is filled with villains wearing masks, but because most people are fundamentally loyal to their own interests, their own fears, and their own survival. And the moment your presence stops serving those interests, the loyalty evaporates. Just like that, no warning, no explanation, just silence where there used to be warmth. Machiavelli wrote about this with a precision that still cuts centuries later. He said men will abandon you in adversity far more readily than they promised they would in prosperity. When times are good, loyalty is easy and cheap. Everyone wants to stand next to the man who is winning. But the moment the tide shifts, the moment difficulty arrives, the moment standing by you costs something, you will discover very quickly who was genuinely in your corner and who was simply enjoying the proximity to your momentum. This is not cynicism. This is clarity, and there is a profound difference between the two. Cynicism makes you bitter and closed. Clarity makes you precise and protected. You don't stop building relationships. You don't isolate yourself behind walls of paranoia. You simply stop building your entire psychological foundation on the shifting ground of other people's promises. Because promises are made in comfort and broken under pressure. Dark psychology is unambiguous about human nature. People rationalize betrayal with extraordinary creativity. They will rewrite the history of your relationship in their own minds to justify the moment they chose themselves over you. And the tragedy is not that they did it. The tragedy is that you didn't see it coming because you were too busy believing in a version of them they showed you only when it was convenient. The untouchable man understands this deeply. He values loyalty when he finds it, protects it when it's real, but he never outsources his stability to another person's consistency. His foundation is built on his own vision, his own discipline, his own unshakable sense of direction. People may come and go, support may rise and fall, circumstances may shift in ways you never anticipated, but a man anchored in his own purpose cannot be destabilized by the inevitable unpredictability of human behavior. Trust the work, trust the vision, trust the man you are becoming. Drop "My vision is my loyalty" in the comments right now. Number 6. The art of strategic withdrawal. Disappear to become more powerful. There is a move so counterintuitive, so misunderstood, so completely opposite to everything modern culture tells you to do, that most men never discover it until it's too late. While everyone around you is chasing visibility, flooding timelines, seeking attention, performing their ambitions publicly for validation and applause, the most powerful thing you can sometimes do is simply disappear, not in defeat, not in weakness, not because the world broke you and you needed to hide, but as a deliberate, calculated, strategic withdrawal that repositions you, rebuilds you, and returns you to the board as something entirely different from what people expected. Machiavelli understood that presence, when overexposed, loses its weight. When people see you constantly, they stop seeing you clearly. You become background noise, familiar, predictable. And familiarity, as brutal as this sounds, breeds a quiet kind of contempt, not hatred, but something almost worse, indifference. The man who is always available is never truly valued. The man who is always visible is never truly mysterious. And in the game of power, mystery is currency. When you withdraw strategically, you trigger something primal in the people around you. Human psychology is wired to assign greater value to what it cannot easily access. Scarcity creates desire. Absence creates curiosity. Silence creates questions. And questions create a mental preoccupation with you that your constant presence never could. While you are gone, you are being thought about. While you are silent, you are being discussed. While you are rebuilding in private, your perceived power is actually growing in the minds of those watching from the outside. Dark psychology identifies this as the scarcity principle operating at its highest level, not manipulating others through artificial unavailability, but genuinely investing that withdrawn time into becoming more dangerous, more refined, more focused than you were before you left. The withdrawal is not the destination, it is the forge. Every great transformation in a man's life happens in private. The reinvention, the discipline, the brutal self-assessment, the shedding of old identities that no longer serve the man you are becoming. None of that happens under the spotlight. It happens in the silence. It happens in the discomfort. It happens in those long stretches of invisibility where you are doing the work that most men avoid because it requires confronting yourself without the distraction of external noise or the numbing comfort of constant social validation. Machiavelli's prince did not announce his strategies. He executed them. He did not perform his preparation. He arrived prepared. And there is a seismic difference between the man who constantly tells the world what he is going to do and the man who quietly does it and then lets the results speak in a language that cannot be argued with. Strategic withdrawal also protects you from something deeply insidious, the drain of environments and people that consume your energy without contributing to your evolution. Every room you stay in out of obligation, every conversation you endure out of politeness, every relationship you maintain out of habit rather than genuine value. These are slow leaks in your psychological armor. Disappearing from what diminishes you is not retreat. It is selection. It is the ruthless curation of your own energy, your own time, your own mental space. The untouchable man does not give his presence to everything that demands it. He reserves it for what deserves it. And that selectivity alone communicates a level of self-respect that commands the respect of others without ever asking for it. Disappear with purpose. Return with power. Drop "I move in silence" in the comments if you understand what this really means. Number 7. Read people like a book. See what they hide before they show it. The single greatest advantage you can possess in any environment, in business, in relationships, in every social dynamic you will ever navigate, is the ability to see people clearly before they reveal themselves. Not after the betrayal, not after the manipulation, not after the damage has already been done and you are left piecing together the warning signs you ignored because you wanted to believe the best. Before, the ability to read people accurately, to see past the performance and into the architecture of who someone actually is not a gift reserved for the naturally intuitive. It is a skill, a learnable, developable, sharpenable skill that most people never pursue because they are too emotionally invested in seeing people the way they want them to be, rather than the way they actually are. And that gap between who someone is and who you need them to be is where manipulation lives. Machiavelli was a student of human nature above all else. His entire philosophy rested on one foundational observation: men are driven by self-interest, fear, and the desire for security. Strip away the social performance, the polished manners, the carefully constructed image, and underneath, every person is navigating life according to those core drives. Once you understand this, once you genuinely internalize it rather than just intellectually acknowledging it, you stop being surprised by people. You stop feeling blindsided by betrayal. You stop mistaking charm for character, consistency for loyalty, or kindness for genuine goodwill. You begin to see the motivations operating beneath the surface of every interaction. Dark psychology goes even deeper. It teaches you to observe the micro, the small, involuntary signals that people broadcast constantly without realizing it. The way someone talks about others when those others are not present tells you everything about how they will talk about you. The way someone handles inconvenience reveals their true temperament far more honestly than how they behave when everything is going smoothly. The way someone reacts to your success, whether their congratulations reach their eyes or stay trapped in their words, tells you whether you are in the presence of a genuine ally or a patient competitor wearing the face of a friend. Pay attention to inconsistencies. The most dangerous people in your life will rarely announce themselves. They will not arrive with obvious malice or visible hostility. They will arrive with warmth, with generosity, with a carefully constructed likability that feels almost too comfortable, too easy, too perfectly calibrated to what you needed at that particular moment. Manipulation does not look like manipulation. It looks like connection. It looks like understanding. It looks like someone finally seeing you. And that feeling, that rare, intoxicating feeling of being truly seen, is precisely what makes it effective. The antidote is not paranoia. The antidote is observation without emotional investment. It is the discipline of watching behavior over time rather than making permanent judgments based on temporary impressions. People reveal themselves in patterns, not moments. A single act of generosity means nothing. A single act of cruelty means nothing. But patterns, repeated behaviors across different contexts, different pressures, different stakes, those are the truth. Watch how people treat those who can do nothing for them. Watch how people behave when they believe no one important is observing. Watch how people speak about those who were once close to them and are now gone. These are the unguarded moments where the real person surfaces, unfiltered and uncurated. And if you are paying attention rather than performing your own social role, you will see everything you need to see. The untouchable man is a silent anthropologist in every room he enters. He is not paranoid. He is not suspicious without cause. He is simply awake in a world full of people sleepwalking through their own agendas. He listens more than he speaks, observes more than he performs, and processes what he sees with a cold, clear intelligence, unclouded by the desperate need to like and be liked. Information is power. And the man who collects it quietly, patiently, without revealing that he is collecting it at all, that man always knows more than the room suspects. He is never caught off guard. He is never manipulated by someone he didn't already see clearly. He moves through every dynamic with the calm precision of someone who read the ending before the story even began. That is not luck. That is not natural talent. That is the reward of disciplined observation applied consistently over time. Sharpen your eyes, quiet your need to be seen, and start reading the room the way. Machiavelli read the court with cold intelligence, zero illusions, and absolute clarity about what is actually happening beneath the surface of what people want you to believe. Drop "I see clearly" in the comments if your eyes are finally open. Number 8. Build yourself into something they can't ignore and can't destroy. There is a version of you that has not yet been built, a version that does not flinch under pressure, does not shrink in difficult rooms, does not require external validation to maintain its sense of direction. A version so internally fortified, so precisely constructed, so deeply rooted in its own identity and purpose that the storms that destroy ordinary men simply pass around it like weather around a mountain. That version is not found, it is forged. And the forging is brutal, deliberate, and absolutely non-negotiable if you are serious about becoming untouchable. Most men spend their entire lives reacting to the world rather than constructing themselves in response to it. They are shaped by their environment, molded by other people's expectations, defined by whatever circumstances happened to arrive first and loudest in their formative years. They carry those inherited definitions into adulthood and mistake them for identity. They mistake familiarity for truth, and so they move through life as an accumulation of other people's influences rather than as a deliberately architected human being with a clear philosophy, a refined set of values, and an unshakable internal standard that governs every decision regardless of external pressure. Machiavelli understood that the prince who is not self-constructed will be constructed by others. The man who does not define himself will be defined by the most dominant voices in his environment. And once you allow that to happen, once you outsource the construction of your own identity to the convenience of circumstance, you become infinitely manipulable because your sense of self is never stable enough to resist sustained pressure. Building yourself into something they cannot ignore begins with a ruthless audit of everything you currently are, not a comfortable self-assessment. Not the kind of introspection that ends with self-congratulation. A cold, unflinching inventory of your weaknesses, your inconsistencies, your patterns of avoidance, the fears you have been rationalizing as preferences, the limitations you have been dressing up as personality traits. This is the part most men skip. They want the power without the excavation. They want the results without the brutal honesty about what is currently standing between them and those results. But the foundation of psychological untouchability is self-knowledge so complete, so unsparing, so precise, that no one can ever hand you a version of yourself that is more accurate than the one you already hold. When you know yourself completely, your triggers, your tendencies, your shadow as well as your strength, you remove the primary tool that manipulation relies on. Manipulation works by exploiting the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are. Close that gap, and you close the door. Dark psychology is explicit about this. The most psychologically resilient individuals are not those who have no weaknesses. They are those who have mapped their weaknesses so thoroughly that they cannot be surprised by them. They have already had the confrontation with their own darkness in private, which means no one can use that darkness as a weapon against them in public. Beyond self-knowledge comes self-construction, the deliberate, daily, unglamorous work of building the physical, mental, and psychological architecture of a man who commands respect without demanding it, discipline that does not bend to mood, standards that do not lower under social pressure, habits so deeply embedded that they continue operating even when motivation has completely disappeared. A body trained to perform under stress. A mind trained to think clearly under pressure. An emotional system trained to process difficulty without collapse. None of this is dramatic. None of this happens in a single revelation or a single decision. It accumulates, day after day, choice after choice, in the 1,000 small moments where comfort tempts you and discipline answers instead. And over time, that accumulation produces something that cannot be manufactured quickly and cannot be taken away easily. A man whose identity is so solid, so tested, so genuinely his own, that the opinions of others become genuinely irrelevant. Not performatively irrelevant, not the kind of forced indifference that secretly craves the approval it pretends not to need, but genuinely, structurally irrelevant. Because a man who has built himself knows his own worth with a certainty that requires no external confirmation. He does not need the room to recognize him because he has already recognized himself. He does not need your respect because he has already earned his own. And there is nothing more psychologically untouchable than a man who is completely, unshakably, immovably at home in himself. Build relentlessly. Compromise nothing. Drop "I am being built" in the comments if you are committed to the construction. Number 9. The cold truth about power. Most people will never be ready to hear this. Everything you have been taught about power is incomplete, not entirely wrong, but strategically incomplete in a way that keeps most men permanently disadvantaged. You were taught that power comes from titles, from wealth, from status, from the external markers that society has agreed to recognize as significance. And while those things carry weight in certain rooms, they are not the foundation of real power. They are the decoration. Real power, the kind that persists when the title is stripped away, when the wealth fluctuates, when the status shifts, is entirely psychological. It lives inside a man, not around him. And the cold, uncomfortable truth that most people are genuinely not prepared to confront is this: the majority of human beings will spend their entire lives chasing the decoration while completely neglecting the foundation. They will accumulate external symbols of power while remaining internally fragile, externally dependent, and psychologically exposed to anyone who understands how the game is actually played. Machiavelli watched this pattern play out in the courts of Renaissance Italy with a clarity that stripped all romanticism from the concept of power. He watched powerful men fall, not because their enemies were stronger, but because they were hollow at the center, because their power was performative rather than structural, because the moment real pressure arrived, there was nothing beneath the surface capable of holding the weight. A man can project confidence without possessing it. A man can perform authority without embodying it. And for a while, sometimes a long while, that performance can be convincing enough to function. But performance always has a breaking point. And when that breaking point arrives, it arrives publicly, catastrophically, and irreversibly. The untouchable man is not performing power. He is constructed from it. Dark psychology teaches that true psychological power has 3 non-negotiable components. The first is complete ownership of your narrative. The story other people tell about you is largely determined by the story you tell about yourself through your behavior, your boundaries, and your consistency. The man who owns his narrative cannot be easily rewritten by those who wish to diminish him. The second component is the absolute elimination of desperation in any form. Desperation is the most visible weakness a man can broadcast. It communicates scarcity, instability, and need, and it immediately inverts the power dynamic of any interaction it enters. The desperate man negotiates from weakness, regardless of what his external position suggests. The man who genuinely has options, who genuinely operates from a place of internal abundance rather than fear-driven scarcity, negotiates from a position that others can feel even when it is never explicitly stated. The third component is the willingness to walk away from anything that compromises your psychological sovereignty. This is perhaps the most difficult, most misunderstood, and most transformative principle in this entire video. The willingness to walk away from relationships, from opportunities, from environments that demand you shrink, perform, or betray your own standards in exchange for belonging is the ultimate demonstration of power. Not because walking away is always the right tactical move, but because the man who is genuinely willing to walk away can never be held hostage. And a man who cannot be held hostage cannot be controlled. Most people will hear these principles and feel a momentary ignition, a flash of recognition, a surge of resonance, a brief conviction, that this time they will actually apply what they are learning rather than simply consuming it and returning to the same patterns. Don't be most people. The gap between knowing and becoming is crossed by one thing only: relentless, uncomfortable, daily application. The cold truth about power is that it was always available to you. You simply weren't ready to pay the price it demands. The question is whether you are ready now. Drop "I choose power" in the comments if your answer is yes. Number 10. You are either becoming untouchable or you are becoming a target. There is no middle ground. There never was. Every day that passes without deliberate construction is a day spent becoming easier to manipulate, easier to dismiss, easier to use. The world does not pause while you decide whether you are serious. It continues moving, and the people who understand power continue sharpening themselves while everyone else stays comfortable and exposed. Machiavelli's final lesson was not about strategy or silence or the art of reading men. It was about decision. The decision to see reality without illusion and choose to rise within it, rather than complain about its cruelty. That decision belongs to you alone. No one can make it for you, and no one can take it from you once it is genuinely made. You have just absorbed the dark wisdom. The question is what you do with it the moment this video ends. Become the man that circumstance cannot break, that manipulation cannot penetrate, that pressure cannot reshape. Become psychologically untouchable, not as a performance, but as a permanent state of being. Drop "I am untouchable" in the comments and make it a declaration, not a wish. If this video shifted something inside you, hit that like button, subscribe to Machiavellian Mind, and turn on notifications, because what's coming next will go even deeper. The construction continues. Show up.